Hi, guys. Thanks for tuning in to this second episode of Military Spouse to Millionaire. Today, we're going to be talking about the biggest mistake that I have made in my professional career. And I very appropriately titled the name of this episode, Be Careful Who You Give Your Power to. And I will definitely elaborate and explain, but in a nutshell, my goal with this episode is to talk to other entrepreneurs, other business owners, other people who are maybe in a space where they're thinking about, wow, it's appropriate and it's time for me to grow and scale my business. How do I do that? What are mistakes that other people have made? And even though this is definitely, you know, no one likes to talk about or admit on a public forum mistakes that they've made or missteps that they've taken. But like I said in my last episode, this platform is really meant for me to be as authentic and transparent and kind of laid bare for you guys as possible, because that is fundamentally how I think I've achieved so much of my success, is just being an open book, being transparent, being no bullshit. So again, this is not like a Instagram worthy topic. It's not pretty, it's messy, it's painful, it's a lot of things. But at the end of the day, if someone out there gets a little bit of inspiration or knowledge, or just if this helps them not make the same mistake that I made, it'll be worth it. Let's get into it. Be careful who you give your power to. In a nutshell, for me, from my experience, just means it's okay for you to be a little territorial or protective of something that you've created. So I started finding home from nothing. I got my real estate license in 2017. I didn't do my first deal until 2018. I went 6 months before I did my first transaction. If you listened to my last episode, I kind of go over that story. But from March of 2018 to December of 2018, I went on to do 33 transactions. The average real estate agent in their first year, I think the statistic used to be, does between 4 and 6 transactions. I did 33. Then in my second year in 2019, I closed 45 or 46. And by the time I took on a business partner in July of 2020, I was already on pace to hit 60 transactions. And obviously I was in a place where, I was like, okay, I need help. I'm growing. However, I did it the wrong way. Especially this particular person and everything that I did, which I will absolutely get into. I know so many of my past clients have been so eager for this episode. I really went back and forth a lot on whether to even film it or get into it, because I don't want it to come across as anything other than what it is. At the end of the day, this is just a cautionary tale to other entrepreneurs to just be very careful how you integrate someone into your business. And just because you need help doesn't mean that that person giving you help needs to be brought in and made to seem by the outside world the same or equal to you. You being someone that started the business from nothing, is the subject matter expert, probably has more background and experience. So it is okay for your client base or for your consumers to understand that while this other person, whoever that might be in your world, is here to help and is knowledgeable and is reliable and is all of those things, that you are the top of the totem pole. And there's just no other way to say that. And you can take it however you want. You can say that it's, whatever, but I have learned, and I absolutely feel and will always carry with me now through the rest of my professional life, making it very apparent to anyone that's being introduced to my business that it is my business. And that, yes, I have all this help, and I'm very grateful for all the help that I have, all of the transaction managers and assistants and social media team. And, this is not a one-woman show, guys. The transactions that I close in a year right now average about 100 transactions in a year. Obviously, there's no fucking way me as one person is writing every single one of those offers or going to every single home inspection or every single final walkthrough. I have oversight and an overview, and I talk to my transaction managers daily about all of the transactions that we have in progress, but I'm focused on reaching new clients and following up with old clients to see how their home ownership journey is going, and more of a customer service role because I always want those touches, those interactions to be with me personally. So there's a delicate dance, and anybody who owns a business knows that. You guys, look at any large company. When you go into KFC, Colonel Sanders, obviously this is just a fictitious example, but Colonel Sanders isn't the one back there frying your goddamn chicken. He wanted to scale his business. He has people helping him. He gave that secret recipe to other people so they could serve more fried chicken. And that's just a random example that popped into my mind, but you get my point. So, okay, now that I have the overarching kind of sentiment that I'm trying to convey, my personal story, what actually happened to me was everybody and their brother always wants to get into real estate. I work almost exclusively with military families. As you guys know, every military spouse that comes here without a job and is interacting with me, 9 times out of 10, they're like, I want to get my real estate license. And 10 times out of 10, I say, go for it. Get your real estate license, because 9 times out of 10, they don't, because people have this very glamorized, bordering on fictitious image in their mind of what real estate is like. And all of that kind of stuff will definitely be covered on future episodes, because that's something that I want to prioritize, is pulling back the curtain on what is it actually like to be a realtor, and not just a realtor, but a high volume producing top 1% realtor. It is not all HGTV, show someone 3 houses. The next thing you know, they're getting their keys. We are in the trenches, you guys. There is literal blood, sweat, and tears that goes into this, but you put a pin in that. That's for a different episode. When you get down to it, though, and when I really talk to people, or sometimes people shadow me for a day or two and want to know, like, really what my days are like, 9 times out of 10, people are like, never mind. I'll go do something else. I'll stay in the career that I'm in, or I'll, figure something else out, because it's not what people think it's going to be. However, in 2020, I did have a client that I was helping, and they bought a house with me. The wife said she wanted to get her real estate license, and she actually did. She came back about a month later and said, hey, I have my license. And she was in the process of interviewing with a larger brokerage and just had some questions about, hey, they're making me jump through all these hoops. Is this normal? What should I be expecting? And I was like, girl, why don't you just come work with me? Because I needed the help. I was literally drowning. I could not do one more thing. I was that maxed out. I was working my face off from sunup to sundown. It was just time for me to get some help. So she was like, okay, bet. This person had no real estate background. She was, at the time, a stay-at-home mom. They had a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old. She had previously run her own business, so that made me feel somewhat reassured that she obviously had some business savvy, business acumen that we could work with. But she didn't have any real estate or sales background or experience. But I was like, no worries. A lot of what I initially was needing help with was like admin stuff and social media stuff and sort of behind the scenes things that go on in a transaction. Anyways, I wasn't looking for someone to be like the front person of the company. And that's very much how our business model sort of set out from that point on initially. Was I'm still, engaging with clients, talking to people up front, educating people, getting them sort of starting on the pre-approval process, being that person. And then once they were in contract, then we would sort of start a group chat, and she would get a little bit more involved with administrative things like setting up home inspections and going to home inspections and all of that stuff, which did involve her interacting with clients and needing to answer questions. But that was great because that's great training. However, and this is where I made mistake number 1, she was always very cognizant, even from the beginning, of clients not viewing her as a point of authority. Because these clients, these people had spent all this time sort of talking to me, getting educated by me, building trust with me, and I get it. So they were very drawn to just keep coming to me with stuff, which is why we started the group chats so that I was still there, I was still participating, I was still sort of like the security blanket, but over time, she would learn how I would reply, so that she could start replying, how I would reply, and build that rapport. But because she was always very cognizant of not wanting to be seen as like new or lesser or whatever, it was never made clear to my clients, like, hey, this is my new agent and we're working together and she's going to be shadowing me and blah, blah, blah. No one that we ever worked with knew, hey, this is a brand new real estate agent and this is her first deal. No one ever knew that. And that might be fine to some degree, but they also didn't know that behind the scenes, I'm the one feeding her the answers or giving her the information or whatever. And then she might be going to them and they're like, wow, this person's so helpful. And what I also learned is that, and this is not a knock to clients, I think this is just people in general, but people have short memories. And so even though I was definitely the one to start engaging with them, educate them on home buying, maybe even sway them from renting or living on post to buying a house with the information I was able to share because of my background, because of my experience, because of all of these things that I bring to the table. I was the person that did all of that. But then we, got into contract. Like, I'm the one setting up their showings. I'm the one getting into contract. And mind you, this was in 2020 and 2021 when the market was fucking nuts, you guys. Like, I am submitting maybe like 10, 11, 12 offers for people sometimes before one gets accepted. So I'm the one advising them on offers, fighting with agents to get them into contract. And then sure, once we're in contract, this person would sort of take the ball a little bit more and do all of the stuff until closing. And then at closing, we're both there and we both give keys and all of those things. And I have talked to clients in the past because ultimately last year I did fire this person. Some things happened that I'll go into that I just didn't feel comfortable continuing on with the business relationship. So I did, let her go. And I've reached out to clients since then just to sort of make them all aware. And people have been really, really great about getting in touch with me, letting me know what kind of mail she's sending them or Instagram messages she's sending or ways that she's reaching out saying, hi, you remember me? I helped you buy your house. And so I'm kind of aware of all those things. And a few of them have actually told me, hey, we're going to work with her because she was so great at answering our questions while we were in contract. And that really took me aback. And if I'm honest, it hurt my feelings because they don't, and I fired back at this point. If I've lost the business, I'm at least going to speak my piece. And so when 2 or 3 clients have said that to me, I fire back with, yes, that was our business model, but I want you to also remember that I was the one that talked you out of living on post in the first place. I'm the one that educated you on renting not being the best way to spend your $100,000 of BAH. I'm the one that set up the 17 showings that we went to and negotiated my face off and gave up commission to get you the house that you're now living in. But they don't know that. They know that, but all they remember is being in contract and this other person being the person that was answering their questions. And that goes to a very, very true point that someone once said to me that really didn't click until all this happened. People remember the last interaction they have in a transaction. And this person said that to me because they had a great experience with their client. This was a lender. It wasn't another real estate agent, but the same rule applies. This lender was like, we had a great transaction. Everything was smooth, no hiccups, whatever. But then at the signing, like literally the last thing to happen before this person goes off and gets the keys to their home, at the signing, everything went wrong. Shit hit the fan, and those buyers left there with a bad taste in their mouth, and it soured the whole experience. Even though everything else, they got a great rate, the transaction moved smoothly, they were ahead of schedule, like all these other great things had happened, but it was the last experience that they had that dictated their overall mindset or memory of that whole experience. And that is exactly what I did to myself, because I stepped back and people were not aware of kind of the behind the scenes inner working of things. They just remember her being this great resource that answered all of their questions while they were in contract and being there at their final walkthrough and setting up their keys. So even though I was there from the beginning, in the beginning, I was the person kind of getting a lot of people, not everybody, like some people, sure, some people come to me and they're like, I want to buy a house. Great. The more people like that, the merrier. But the reality of it is, you have to educate people normally. I don't normally get people that just come to me without any sort of misinformation or fear or trepidation or whatever and just want to buy a house. I have to educate people, and that's fine. That's what I love to do. But I didn't do a good job of being transparent with my client base of, this is someone who's here to help me help you, but she is not me. I'll get to the money stuff in a minute. But I started out introducing her as my business partner, not as a new agent, not as an intern, not as, anything, my business partner, which immediately in people's mind, you hear the word partnership, it translates to equal. So even though this person who had never done a real estate transaction, and by this point I had maybe 70 or 80 deals under my belt, this person who had done nothing in the industry immediately was raised to being my equal in the eyes of my client base. And that was not okay of me to do. That was dumb. It's taken me a long time to get myself to be able to say that sentence, but that was dumb. Something else that was dumb, because I know the statistic. Now let's talk about the money. Let's talk about the financial aspect of my stupidity. 90% of real estate agents fail. Staggering statistic. And it's because, one, real estate is expensive to get into. You guys, as a real estate agent, I am an independent contractor. You know what that means? That means I wake up every fucking day jobless. If I am not out there hustling, I don't get a paycheck. I don't get benefits. I don't get anything unless I'm out there hustling. Every day I wake up unemployed unless I bring myself business. I eat what I kill. And I know that's a very dramatic statement, but that is the reality of independent contractor status. And I feel that is a huge reason why most agents fail, because you cannot always generate enough business for yourself to sustain yourself, but you also can't do it as your side hustle, because then you're not really focusing on building a client base. I'll put a pin in that, but I know that. And I didn't want this person to not be successful because I was so desperate for help that I was drowning. And I was basically like latched onto this person as the human equivalent of a life raft because I just needed so much help and I was overwhelmed. And that definitely led me to make some bad decisions. So from the beginning, we did our first 5 transactions together. And when I say together, I'm using that term very loosely. She would shadow me. She would roll around with me, go to appointments, but I was still largely doing most of the stuff. She was just kind of learning. So our first 5 transactions, I think we split 70-30. So I gave her 30%. After our 5th transaction, I said, okay, 50-50. If you think after 5 transactions, anybody knows fully what the hell they are doing in real estate, you are sadly mistaken. It takes In my opinion, it takes years because every transaction is different. The market is constantly changing. People are different. It takes years to become proficient and fully trained and to the point where you're not asking questions all the time. I have been doing this 7 years and I'm still like, sometimes go to my mentor or people that I respect in the industry and bounce things off of. And that's what you should do. And that's why we have mentors and that's why we have a good support system within our community as realtors. But definitely not by 5 transactions, having no sales or real estate background experience. Is someone entitled or worthwhile enough to give 50% of the deals that I'm getting? I'm finding the clients. I'm educating them. I'm getting them on the hook to buy. I'm doing all the things that actually get business. Now, in the interest of being completely transparent, because this person and I were partners and because we were splitting the deals 50-50, instead of, and this was also part of the mindset, instead of her repping herself on the spouse pages because she had no reputation, no clout, no word of mouth, no nothing, I am on the spouse pages. I'm very active. People recommend me. People shout me out. Still to this day, which clients, I know a lot of my past clients have been waiting for this episode and are listening. Thank you. To this day, I would not be where I am if it weren't for you guys' referral business, repeat business, Facebook shout out business, Instagram, TikTok, like all of the things that you guys do for me. I would not be here if it weren't for you. And so instead of trying to get this other person off the ground, building her own clout, we agreed that as part of our business structure, she would shout me out. I was her realtor. She had a great experience with me. She used to have a very glowing recommendation on my Facebook page of her experience with me as her agent. So it wasn't like it wasn't a true recommendation, but we were splitting things 50-50, so it seemed worthwhile. But that did not, even her doing that did not mean that she was doing enough work or had enough knowledge or had enough experience to warrant that. But I was so scared that living in Hawaii, being a new mom, being a family of 4, that they were not going to feel like they were making enough money for her to keep doing this with me because it is time consuming. I work a lot. It is a lot of hours. I know everyone's like, realtors make so much money. I won't even get into that. That's actually something I'm going to talk about probably in my next episode, is breaking down why real estate agents are not overpaid, because that's definitely something that I hear a lot. It's a question that I get a lot. I won't get into it now. I could just go on a whole tangent and that will derail me. I want to get through this episode, but I felt that I needed to do that to ensure that she wasn't going to go anywhere, because the last thing I wanted was to spend 6 months, 8 months, a year, and then her be like, well, this isn't financially worth it. I have to go do something else. In addition to that, giving her 50% of the deals, I also, at the time, was negotiating a better split with my brokerage for myself. I know that you guys might not be familiar with brokerages and how real estate commission splits are set up. So the quick and dirty version is for smaller brokerages like the ones I choose to work at. A lot of the times they'll have an 80-20 split. So the agent gets 80, the brokerage gets 20. Some larger brokerages, which I've never worked for, just to be clear, this is just what I hear, start out 60-40. Meaning the brokerage gets 40% of new agent business. And that is because new agents are a lot of work. New agents need a lot of training. They ask a lot of questions. They sometimes mess things up. Like, it's a lot of work. So that's why they have that split. I had been my brokerage's top producing agent since I had been with the brokerage. So this was in 2020. So for 2018, 2019, I was the top producing agent, and I was already like, we knew in 2020 I was going to be the top producing agent that year, which I was, and in 2021. So I was negotiating a better split for myself. And because this person and I had a 50-50 split on the transactions, I was talking to my broker and I was like, you know what? I want a 95-5 split, which is unheard of. And it was especially unheard of back in 2020. Now there are some brokerages that have caps and other things that I don't need to get into. It's not relevant to this part of the story. But I told my broker that I wanted a 95-5 split. And my broker was like, you're my best agent. Absolutely, I will accommodate that. And then I said, and I want that same 95-5 split for my new business partner, who at this point had never done a real estate transaction. She had never closed a deal. She had never gotten one client of her own. So I'm splitting all of my deals with her 50-50, and now I just negotiated for her a 95-5 split with my broker, which he agreed to. He was like, you're telling me this person's going to be amazing? Absolutely. Are you fucking kidding me? Looking back on this now, I can see that these were clear acts of desperation to just make sure this person didn't go anywhere, because I needed the help and I couldn't afford to train someone and then risk them leaving. So I wanted to make it so advantageous for that person that they would just never want to leave. But in doing that, I also shot myself in the foot because I created someone that didn't have to earn their position and therefore didn't value it and ultimately wasn't loyal to it because everything, I'm not going to say everything was given to them because this person did work very hard, but to be fair, they were also being paid very fucking well. In these years that I'm talking about in 2020 and 2021, I made damn near, if not slightly over $1 million. And this person, was getting half of that. And essentially what they were doing is the same job that my transaction managers may do, and I pay them $900 a transaction. I have transaction managers now that start group chats with the clients, that go to home inspections, that answer a lot of the generalized questions. If something comes up and it's, more serious or more specific, I'm always in the group chat and I jump in and I answer, and I'm always there to reassure, that kind of stuff. But ultimately, being where I am now, I'm paying two very wonderful prior Army captains that did their Skill Bridge program with me and decided to stay on. I'm paying these other two individuals to do exactly what she was doing, and I'm paying them $900 a transaction. And I was giving her 50%. She was working. She was doing things. She was doing things that added value and freed up my time. I'm not trying to make it seem that she was not valued or an important part of the business, but I grossly gave her too much compensation. I gave her too much influence and control. And I did that in a lot of ways because a lot of running a real estate company or any company, I don't want people to think this is just a real estate specific podcast or topic, because I don't care what business you have. If you own a business nowadays, you not only need to be a business owner and proficient at whatever the fuck your business is, but you need to also be a tax professional and know, do you need an LLC or an S Corp, or at least be smart enough to go out and find the right people to help you with that. You need to be a social media content creator. You need to be, all these 50 million things. You need to have administrative skills. You need to know how to create a spreadsheet or make a newsletter or, set up a texting platform to stay in touch with your client. There are all these things you need to be proficient in. And I didn't really want to do any of that. I want to be a realtor, you guys. I want to educate people on investing in real estate and becoming self-made millionaires through investing tax-free BAH that the military gives us. That is what I want to do. There are all these other fucking things that need to be done to run a successful business that, she was more than happy to take on, but it's not like she was doing it just for charity. She was happy to take them on because I was paying her so damn well. And so it was symbiotic, definitely there for a while, and for a really long time, I thought that I was just getting the best deal. I was like, this person is so great. They're doing all these things that I needed help with, that I didn't want to do, that I, blah, blah, blah. But of course, if you pay someone who was a stay-at-home mom and then all of a sudden they're making $500,000 a year and all they have to do is go to a few appointments and, send some emails and do some paperwork, like, yes, of course they're going to be very happy with their situation. But in doing that, again, my clients didn't realize that I was still the one behind the scenes giving her the information that she was then passing along to them. And they're thinking from their perspective of things. They're like, wow, this girl is fantastic. She's so fast to reply. She's this, she's that. But I'm messaging her, hey, so-and-so sent a message 10 minutes ago. Answer them, reply to them, say this, say that, because she didn't know what she was doing. And I'm not in the business of belittling anybody. I was fine with raising her up and making her seem like, she was a superstar. But now it's bit me in the ass because she's reaching out to those people saying, hey, remember me? I helped you buy your house. And what they remember is those last interactions. And so my message to people in wanting to make this podcast and talk about this issue is, yes, it's okay to get help. It's okay to need help. It's great that your business is growing, but don't give someone so much influence or control or power in your business that people don't know whose business it is. Because that is something that is so hard to recover from. And I've had to spend countless hours engaging with my client base and having conversations with people about, no, like finding home was mine before this person. Finding home is mine still. Yes, if you want to use this other person for things in the future, that's absolutely your right. But please just remember, please be genuine and look back at your initial text messages or Facebook messages or phone calls or whatever. I am betting you dollars to donuts. It was me that you started talking to. It was me that helped you with your move here. It was me that educated you on not renting or not living on post, but buying being a better option. It was me that you talked to about your showing schedules. It was me who advised you on your offer and knew how to be aggressive enough to get you into contract. And even though they might not know it, it was me answering their questions and talking them through all of the things that happened while they were in contract. What happened from there is progressively over our time working together, her husband got into real estate. He's not a realtor. He works in a different industry that's still in the real estate community. And ultimately, she wanted to start doing things with him more, partnering with him more, doing more stuff with property management, which is fine. And initially, I personally didn't want anything to do with property management in the sense of I didn't have the bandwidth in my schedule or my timeline day to day to take on property management. But she did, and it was something that she wanted to do because her goal was to create passive income for her family in that way. Because the thing about property management is that as a property manager, you get 10% of the rent amount. So if you have, 30 or 40 rentals and the rent on those is $3,000, you as a property manager, you're getting paid about $300 a pop. And over time, I feel that she sort of realized that and was like, oh my gosh, this is a gold mine. Because being an agent that primarily helps people buy and sell, you're constantly on the hunt. You're constantly having to hustle. You're constantly having to, you know, work harder, in my opinion. And there's nothing wrong with, wanting to work smarter or work less or, do property management for different reasons. And that's fine. But for all of these years that 3 years we worked together, in all of that time, she always very much painted a picture of all my eggs are in the finding home basket. I'm so like ride or die, finding home. And that did make me really happy because my overall goal is that in 3.5 years, Clayton turns 50. And for his 50th birthday, he wants to go on this 9-month cruise around the world. It's literally 9 months. It's 274 days. It goes to 167 destinations. We're going to go to Antarctica and see penguins. Like, it legit is crazy, this cruise that we want to go on. And these were conversations that her and I had, in recent times. Like, I would say in 2023, we've had these conversations of, hey, when I get ready to go on this cruise, I am absolutely willing to, sign over a percentage of the business to you. You will actually, run things day to day. Like, I was at a place where I was very much gearing up to take a large step back from the business, still be involved, still talk to clients, still do the things that I can do remotely. But she was positioned to move into a role where she would be the primary person here, moving into showing houses, advising on offers, doing all that sort of stuff. But then some things started happening. Like, we went to a listing appointment and we had sort of agreed, like, okay, you're more on the property management side. I'm more on the selling side. You talk to them about the rental option. I'll talk to them about the sales option. We get to this appointment and I pull out my little finding home folder that has all my, stuff in it. She pulls out a folder that is branded different, that is not finding home at all. It's this other company name. And I sort of like side-eyed the folder. And as we're getting out of the car, she takes everything out of the folder and she leaves the folder in the car. We go into the appointment. The clients decided to sell the house, not rent the house. So I helped them through that process. And that sort of was like some other littler things had happened kind of. This was maybe July of 2023. And some other things had happened kind of throughout 2023 that, we were working through some things. Like, I think we both knew that there were, growing pains or some tensions or some changes that were happening because her husband had decided that he maybe wanted to be more involved in things. And from a professional standpoint, her husband and I didn't really see eye to eye on enough things that would make it possible for him to be involved in my business. But I don't fault anybody for wanting to work with their husband. I mean, hello. Obviously, Clayton and I work together. But when you're, been saying for a couple of years that, like, hey, I'm really committed to this. I've given her the opportunities and financial security that I had given, I would expect that level of loyalty. So all of that being said, that was sort of the first really big red flag where I was like, oh no, like, this is not okay. So a few weeks went by and I mulled over how to sort of have this discussion. And so I sat her down and I was like, hey, also, she had emailed our web designer at the time about starting a different website with this other company name. And she didn't hide it from me. Like, she emailed this person from our joint email. It was never like she hid it, but it was also not like she had a specific conversation with me about, hey, I'm going to do this, or like, I want to go this direction. So that, that was kind of like a culminating thing as well, where I'm like, okay, we need to have a conversation. So we sat down and I'm like, hey, I'm seeing these things. What's going on? And she's like, yeah, I want to, like pivot, harder into property management. I want to have 300 rental properties. Whatever. Goals are great. Like, have goals. I'm not faulting anybody for that. And at this point, I'm still like, okay, I want nothing to do with property management, but great. But why are you doing it this way? And she said, well, like my husband wants to be involved and, this, that, and the other. And I told her straight up, I was like, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm just not comfortable with this. And her answer to that was, okay, let me go back and talk to my husband. Which is fine, I guess, because, not really, because we're business partners, right? Like, we're figuring this stuff out. I shouldn't be put on the back burner because all of a sudden your husband's getting out of the military and you're maybe having some financial panic and now he wants to get involved in all of this stuff. So that was also a very big component in, I think, what was rubbing me the wrong way at the moment. But whatever, she went, she talked, I would say about 2 weeks went by. It didn't really get brought back up again. So she came over one day for our normal meeting and I was like, hey, did you have a conversation? What happened? And she's like, yeah, we're still going to keep pursuing, starting the separate company and et cetera, et cetera. And I again reiterated, I am not comfortable with this. It is very confusing. It's confusing for people to look at us and say, okay, they're business partners, but this business partner is all under Finding Home, but this business partner is doing stuff under Finding Home, but also has this completely separate company. Like, what if we have a renter that wants to buy and they move over here to this different company altogether? And I even pitched to her at the time, why would you not, if all of your eggs are in the Finding Home basket, why would you not start a Finding Home property management or a Finding Home rentals or something under the Finding Home name and umbrella to keep it in the company that you say you're so loyal to and want to take over and help run and like all these things. And she literally said to me, I didn't even think about that, which blew me away and definitely was something very telling to me about where her mind was at. And I saw the writing on the wall, and it was very clear to me at that point that she was just biding her time until, she severed the connection or she moved on or she left to go build whatever it was that she wanted to build now with her husband. And again, I don't fault anybody for wanting to work with their husband or even wanting to move on from a partnership, but I think it could have been done in a more respectful way, given everything that I had done for her up until that point. And then she said a few other things that really kind of was just very telling. And that was, she said to me, when people look up Finding Home, it's my phone number that they get. It's my information. And of course, and I said this to her, I'm like, of course it is. It's my company. Like, yes, you're my business partner, but I started this, and I, largely speaking, am still the person that people come to when they start going down this road. And so at the end of the day, she just had reached a point where she wanted to build something and have something that was hers and something that she wanted her husband very involved in. And like I said, he and I, from a business standpoint, do not get along. And that's personal preference. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. All of that led to me knowing in my soul that she was checked out. She wanted to go down a different path. And that was fine because at this point, it was almost getting, too much work. Like a partnership, any partnership, a friendship, a marriage, a business relationship, it's always work. But when you start having fundamental disagreements about major things or the direction you want a business to go in, that's probably a sign that things are needing to come to an end. And I realized that. So about another week went by. During that week, I informed my team that I would be severing the business relationship between me and this person. We did all of the professionally appropriate things, changing email passwords and sensitive systems passwords so that she couldn't access them because at the end of the day, that is my data. That is my information on my clients because they were clients of Finding Home. And that is my company. And so I sat her down the next week and said, look, it's time for us to go our separate ways. I just laid everything out and really, I wouldn't say that it got nasty, but she was definitely very taken aback, which I fully expect. But something that was brought up in that particular conversation sticks with me. And I didn't even really realize it until almost when I decided to sever the business relationship. Because we had just gotten a new social media team. And so this new social media team was like, tell us your real estate stories. Like, we want to get to know you guys. And every time she was asked about her real estate story, she just really glossed over it. It wasn't like the last episode was like over an hour long. The podcast episode maybe it was like 38 minutes. But it was me telling my story, which I feel is impactful. And when she told her story, she was always very cagey about it because at the end of the day, her story is, I got my real estate license and then I landed in this sweet gig where I'm making $500,000 a year to do paperwork and go to a few appointments. Like, it's not a compelling story that she was really proud to tell. And I think that she just needed to go out and have the ability to make her own story that she was proud of. Because it was clear to me in those moments leading up to letting her go, not only was she not thankful for everything that she had been given and taught and, sort of all the nurturing that I did, she wasn't truly appreciative of that. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so quick to discard it. But she wasn't proud of her story. She wasn't proud of how she got to where she was. And so all of those things kind of came together and caused me to make the decision that I made. And it's unfortunate because there was a friendship there. We played tennis together almost every day. I went to her house and we watched movies sometimes. We talked every single day, not just about real estate stuff, but about my daughter, about her kids, about husbands pissing us off sometimes. Like it was a genuine, we spent a ton of time together. And to be, I did this in October. I let her go in October. It's June. So it's taken me a long time to get to the point where I felt like I could talk about this in a constructive way. But over that time, like I said, I've had clients, sending me screenshots of letters with QR codes that go to YouTube videos that talk about in a very, trying not to be obvious, but obvious way. Be careful, guys. Be careful when real estate agents reach out to you and tell you to sell your house versus renting your house because they're just telling you that because they want a sale, when literally she told me her goal was to have 300 rental properties because she just gets passive income from them. So just the very sort of manipulative, under the radar things that she's been doing, thinking that people are dumb enough to not see the writing on the wall and fall for, is almost laughable. And that's sort of the general consensus that I've gotten. It hasn't gone as respectfully or as well as I would have hoped for everything that I had done for this person. So again, just going back to my initial point, be careful who you give your power to. I know as women and as business owners, we sometimes are chastised or we feel we need to be very cautious about not seeming arrogant or full of ourselves or, whatever. But I'm here to tell you, I'm here to reassure you that you can be proud of your accomplishments and you can let people know that they are your accomplishments, and that while, yes, you may have people supporting you and people helping you, that you can introduce people as new to the industry, and it's not going to make your clients think any less of you, or it's not going to make them not want to work with you. It's okay to make someone earn and not just give them the keys to your kingdom. And that was a very hard lesson for me to learn. I wasted a lot of time on this person, training them, giving them a lot of skills that they, now have and, may or may not be using. I don't know. But I spent a lot of time and energy and money putting all of that into someone that ultimately at the end of the day didn't value it, didn't really earn what I gave them. And it was just a huge learning lesson for me. So just be careful. Even if you need a lot of help, just be careful how much you give someone of yourself, of something that you created, of your business. I call it my baby, my passion. I gave someone a lot of that, and that was a mistake because they didn't earn it. I gave it to them too fast because I was in panic. So don't make rash decisions. Um, just really be mindful of what someone is truly bringing to the table and their background. I think that's enough on that topic. I think, like I said, in my next episode, we're going to talk about what it's like to be a real estate agent and what it's like compensation wise, what it's like hours wise, what it's like dealing with so many different personalities, both clients and agents. So, this was a little bit of a somber topic. I promise things will be more upbeat, but this is an elephant that I wanted to address because anybody who's followed me on social media, any past clients, anybody, even a lot of agents have reached out to me and just sort of been like, hey, we don't know what happened, but, we knew you before her. We know you're a great agent. We look forward to working with you in the future. This was just really something that I felt I wanted to get off my chest and address because I'm an open book, like I said. And the next episode is going to be about surviving in real estate, money we make, taxes we pay, hours we work. Like, follow, subscribe. Your support means everything to me. Thanks so much, guys, and I will talk to you all next time. Bye. Bye.